Welcome to the Las Vegas Raiders Rundown. I am your host, WiFiWillie. We have a bunch of stories today about the Las Vegas Raiders that we're going to get into. We hope you enjoyed this content. Make sure to leave us a like, subscribe, and ring the bell for notifications to keep getting more Raiders content. So Maxx Crosby ran the NFL Network for a whole day. Chris Sims also talked about his favorite non-QBs in the AFC West, and he mentioned a lot of Raiders. We're going to get into that later. And also, there's this player who says they want to be like Davante Adams, a very successful player. We'll let you know who that is. They're in the NFL today. Plus, Hunter Renfrow. What are his contracts looking like? There are some rumors talking about a potential extension that could happen as early as June. We'll get into that. And Josh McDaniels. We still aren't clear on how much he is getting paid, especially in relation to the other coaches in the NFL. So we'll talk about his salary and what that could mean for the Las Vegas Raiders. Without further ado, let's also talk about right now Sincere McCormick. Sincere McCormick, the running back, undrafted free agent, is actually now on IR. It looks like his season is about to be over, and this kind of surprised all of us. There was some hype, especially when he was signed, because you know, he's had some really good yardage. He's had yardage that is almost better than Breece Hall in college football. And you would think this guy would be really successful. He just had a really bad combine, and that kind of hurt him. And now it looks like he is, physically hurt and not able to play this year. So, sucks for Sincere McCormick. Hopefully he could bounce back. There is still a possibility that the Raiders could bring him back this year, but it seems unlikely. There is also a scenario that Levi Damon of the Raiders Wire also mentioned. He said that the Raiders could possibly be stashing Sincere McCormick on IR because the running back room next year is not going to be that stuff. There's going to be some less running backs on the team next year, and maybe we'll talk about that towards the end of the show, projections of this RB room into the future. But for this year, the running back room is crowded. We got Zamir White, Josh Jacobs, Kenyon Drake, Brandon Bolden, and then Amir Abdullah too, and Britton Brown in the 7th round. So Sincere McCormick probably wouldn't have gotten that many snaps anyways, even if he managed to stay healthy. So we'll see what happens, but unfortunately, he is on IR this year. Yo, do you want cheap Raiders tickets? Make sure you use my promo code WiFiWillie on SeatGeek. Save $20 today. And these tickets work for pretty much everything. If you want a free Gruden pen like this to support John Gruden, check out my merch store below on Spreadshop. You can get other WiFiWillie merch and this pen especially. Hope you like it. So Maxx Crosby controlled the programming of NFL Network on Tuesday, May 24th. That's today if you're watching this video for the first time. He got to choose what programs they want to air from 1 p.m. all the way to 3 a.m. and he had some interesting choices. He had some very interesting choices. First and foremost, he had Al Davis of Football Life. You gotta have that. Also had Charles Woodson of Football Life. One interesting thing that I liked is he had Green Bay Packers versus Minnesota Vikings in 2009. That's the Brett Favre revenge game. So Maxx Crosby looks like a Brett Favre fan. Looks like a Brett Favre fan, just like I am as well. So that's a pretty good one. And also, I do like the fact that he chose 2 particular games. He only chose 2 games that were last year for the Las Vegas Raiders. What were the 2 games that Maxx Crosby chose? I thought perhaps it could have been the Cowboys versus Raiders game. That was a dramatic one. Ravens versus Raiders in week 1. But instead, he chose the Chargers versus Raiders game. That was the last regular season game. That makes a little bit of sense to me because that was a really intense game at Allegiant Stadium. But he also chose Broncos versus Raiders in week 6. I thought that was a very interesting choice, but it was a day when the defense just dominated, and so obviously being a defensive guy, he's gonna like that. And it was really like one of the first big games. I believe it was the Eagles game and then the Broncos game after Gruden was removed and they had Rich Bisaccia. So I think he thought those games were really critical, and that was an interesting choice by Maxx Crosby. He also has NFL's top 10 Raiders of all time, also the 1983 Los Angeles Raiders America's Game film, and tons of other content. So take a look at that, and interesting to see his taste. What is his taste? What programming would Maxx Crosby choose? And I think he chose some pretty good ones there. Chris Sims and Mike Florio of Pro Football Talk talked about their favorite non-QBs in the AFC West, and they did mention some Raiders. They didn't rank them as high as I would like, but they did mention some Raiders.
I guess I'm going to go Davante Adams here. He's too talented. He's good at everything.
I'm going to go right now Maxx Crosby. He's earned it. He's earned it.
Yeah.
Everybody else, it's name recognition, it's potential. potential, it's pass production. Right now, Maxx Crosby's the guy.
I should have probably picked Darren Waller first. I honestly, Darren Waller, I think is right there in the Kelsey conversation for best pass catching tight end in football.
Davante Adams, I think, was ranked too low. You're going to put Chris Jones and freaking Travis Kelsey ahead of Davante Adams. That's absolutely insane. And really all that means is it's Derek Carr shade, because you think Davante Adams is so much less valued now that he's with Derek Carr. That's really all it is. I mean, I believe they ranked Davante Adams 4th or 5th, but you know, he was the number 1 receiver in football last year. If you were to talk who's the number 1 receiver in football, Chris Sims and Mike Florio would say Davante Adams or Tyreek Hill. That's probably exactly who they would name. That's what everybody would name, really. But now that Davante Adams is on the Raiders, oh, suddenly he's like the 4th best like player in the AFC West. Like, that's just absolutely insane. And all it is Derek Carr shade. It's Derek Carr shade. Now that he's with Derek Carr, he's not good enough. So I thought that was BS. I did like the fact that they at least mentioned Davante Adams. I guess we got to pick our battles, right? But they did mention Darren Waller, and Chris Sims really hyped up Darren Waller, and I thought that was important for him to mention, and I was glad that he also said he should have ranked Waller higher. He just kind of missed his mind, and I think Waller is sort of, you know, flying by a lot of people's mind just because he didn't play much last year, especially towards the end of the season. So people are just forgetting we have Waller, how dynamic he is, and how he is technically one of the best players in the AFC West as well. So this offense better be explosive when you have 2 of the best players in the AFC West as your receiving threats for Derek Carr there. They also gave the shout out to Maxx Crosby, said he was better than Bosa. I did like that. That really pumped me up. I was really scared they were going to rank Joey Nosa, you know, that guy who has that thing that like sticks out at you when you watch his press conferences. You got to watch out when you're talking to Joey Nosa. Either way, I'm glad that they ranked Maxx Crosby ahead of him, because Joey Nosa is not in his prime and Maxx Crosby is in his prime, and I'm glad they're able to at least acknowledge that. So there's still some more hype being built for the Las Vegas Raiders. I just think Chris Jones is overrated at number 1, and so is Travis Kelsey at number 2. Hopefully this is the year. If Darren Waller can stay healthy, and I believe he was on pace to do this last year before getting injured, if he could stay healthy, he could prove he's the better tight end compared to Travis Kelsey. Yes, Travis Kelsey is technically a better blocker, but how often is he really blocking? If we're being real, especially with the Chiefs offense, when you know they pass some of the highest percentages in the NFL. They choose to elect for a passing play. Hunter Renfrow's contract is in the news as well. Hunter Renfrow's contract is in the news. People are saying that he could be extended at any time, but really, if you look around the internet, if you search and try to find details about what does Hunter Renfrow's contract look like, is there negotiations going on, there really isn't crap. So anybody reporting this and saying, oh, Hunter Renfrow's about to get an extension right now, it's all just sort of out of their ass. And Jeremy Fowler of ESPN is also kind of alluding to the fact that it is out of his ass. And I think this is the origin of the rumors that Hunter Renfrow is going to get a contract extension soon, is Jeremy Fowler at ESPN and exactly what he said. Fowler said he believes a contract extension with Hunter Renfrow and the Raiders could happen within the next few weeks, but this is just a mere belief. He says one of the game's premier slot receivers is a year from free agency, and the Raiders have proved aggressive so far under Josh McDaniels and Dave Ziegler's regime. Las Vegas expects to have some cap space freed up by June, so perhaps it digs in sometime this summer. So basically, just because we're getting some cap space after June 1st, you're assuming there's a Hunter Renfrow extension, but there's really no, reason to believe that's for sure going to happen. Now, is it likely going to happen? Yes. I think because Derek Carr in his press conference kind of spilled the beans in a little way, where he said that he wanted to renegotiate his contract in a way so he can keep Foster, keep Renfrow, and keep all these guys together. So if you're talking about Renfrow, he's on the last year contract of his rookie deal from 2019. Obviously, Derek Carr wants him extended, right? Wants Renfrow extended. We know when the Deebo Samuel to Raiders rumors happened, because any player to Raiders question mark is a rumor that happened, any trending player. So of course we had the Deebo Samuel to Raiders question mark happen a few weeks ago, and Derek Carr responded and said no chance, that money's for Hunter Renfrow. Now, I don't know if Derek Carr is the GM of the Las Vegas Raiders, right? If he has that much pull, but when you take a team-friendly contract where there is an out to get out of the contract by the end of the season, maybe you do have some flexibility. You can get some guys some contract extension. So I do think it's likely that Hunter Renfrow gets a contract extension by the Las Vegas Raiders, especially after June 1st when we get more cap space. However, there is nothing to indicate that it's certainly going to happen, and there is no news that it is happening. It is just ESPN Jeremy Fowler saying he believes it can happen because we're getting more cap space after June. Personally, if I was Ziegler and McDaniels, I would maybe wait into the mid-season, maybe a few weeks in, and then issue out that contract extension, similar to Darren Waller and his extension in 2019. He was on a one-year deal, but he played so phenomenally, in the first 6 weeks that they decided to go ahead and give him a contract extension and make sure he was there for the future. So maybe they just want to see it on the field, how he fits in their offense, but I'm sure they know Hunter Renfrow is going to work out for them. But hey, these guys aren't going to reveal their hand. We're not going to know what's in their hand with these deck of cards anyways, but we'll see what happens. PFF Fantasy Football showing a quote by the Ravens wide receiver Rashad Bateman. The one guy I study is Davante Adams. Davante Adams, somebody that other receivers are looking up to in the NFL, and it has been a while since the Raiders had a wide receiver that you could say is someone that the rest of the league really looks up to. The last one we had was Antonio Brown, and we know exactly how that worked out. He ended up calling Mike Mayock a cracker and pretty much left the building. That was all that actually happened there. But now we have Davante Adams, true role model at wide receiver and somebody that the rest of the league is looking up to. So more hype is building for this team here. And I think we have better talent than a lot of people realize, especially with this addition. And it is just nice. It is just nice to see our roster at the top. But this also raises the expectations. And this also makes it where Derek Carr, I like Derek Carr. I've always been a Derek Carr stan. But if he really doesn't get it done this year, then where do you point the finger? Where do you point the finger, really, in a lot of ways? Because you got Darren Waller, who, like we said earlier, Chris Sims thinks is one of the best players in the AFC West. And now you got Davante Adams, who people like Rashad Bateman look up to, who's arguably the number 1 or number 2 wide receiver in the NFL. Josh Jacobs was just recognized as a top 10 running back in the NFL. The only finger left to point is the defense, which has improved and was really, really good last year, and I think is going to be better than last year, maybe even 15th or even higher than there. But you can point the finger at the offensive line. That's pretty much it. But all your specialist positions are out of this world. Renfrow, Waller, Davante, Jacobs, Drake, Zamir White, Moreau, right? Just keep it going. Defense, you got 2 premier edge rushers. Maxx Crosby, arguably the best edge rusher in his prime in the AFC West. So really, Derek Carr's expectations this year, despite the fact that the rest of the media keeps ranking the Raiders as projecting to go 4th in the division, I don't really think that's possible. I think if Derek Carr leads this team to 4th in the division, which I do not believe is going to happen, by the way, I think we have a good shot at actually winning the division and being the number 1 team in the AFC West. But we have high expectations this year because of the investment, because of the weapons, and because of the respect that this roster has. Very rarely as a Raiders fan have you gone into seasons and being like, oh, on paper, we have the best, rosters. We have the best offensive skill positions on paper in the division. That hasn't happened in a very long time. Removing Tyreek Hill from the Chiefs completely allowed that to happen, and obviously adding Davante Adams as well. So, it's been a while since that's been the case, and the expectations have to be high. And if the Raiders, finish 3rd or 4th in the division, I really do think some heads will be turning and people will be pointing maybe not only at the offensive line, but also at the quarterback, right? I think that will happen. But I think Derek Carr will be successful, and I think we will shock the league and perhaps end up 1st in the AFC West. I am just saying, despite what the media says, projecting us to rank low, I think in the building, in my opinion, just guessing and just looking at the investment that Mark Davis has made on this team, I believe internally in the building, the expectations are quite high for the Raiders. By the way, everybody, I am really hungover. Woo! Josh McDaniels, what does he make? How much is he getting paid? Now, when you look around the NFL and you look at some of the top coaching salaries, right? Annual salary, really the highest one is Bill Belichick. He's making around $12 million a year. And then you have McVay recently squeezing him out, making roughly above that when you're looking at $15 to $18 million a year when you're looking at coaching salary. Now, John Gruden had $10 million a year. Josh McDaniels, as an offensive coordinator with the Patriots, was making $4 million a year, was the highest paid offensive coordinator in the NFL. And when you look at the top 10 highest paid head coaches, number 10 is Matt LaFleur, sitting at roughly $5 million a year. So that just shows how valuable, you know, Josh McDaniels was for the Patriots, because he was paid almost as much as a head coach like Matt LaFleur, who's been very successful with the Packers. I mean, most teams would love to have the record of Matt LaFleur. Cliff Kingsbury of the Cardinals is making $5.5 million a year, ninth highest, a little higher than Matt LaFleur. And Ron Rivera is making $7 million a year. And you got Andy Reid, the seventh highest paid, is at $8 million a year. So, you know, as a coordinator, McDaniels is already making half of what Andy Reid is making. And now, officially, none of the salaries for this year of the coaches have been released. You can't find Brian DeBoer's salary. You can't find Josh McDaniels' salary. There's no information out. So it's not like the Raiders are the only ones hiding the salary of Josh McDaniels. You don't have that for all the other teams in the NFL as well. At least I'm not able to find that right now. But just looking at this list and looking at who's the 10th highest paid, you know, 8th highest paid and all this stuff, what do you think Josh McDaniels should get paid, and what do you think he will get paid? Now, I think because Josh McDaniels has been a highly paid coordinator, and because he has rejected coaching offers, like it's been hard to pull him out of New England, he needs an offer that's worth it, and Vegas was that offer. We know he stood up the Colts and was actually, you know, accepted to be their head coach, and he stood them up. So how much would this guy make? I think he could command more than Cliff Kingsbury, more than Matt LaFleur, because this guy has options and he's highly sought after. And it might actually be weird because as a rookie head coach, you know, first year with the team, you typically don't get paid that much money, but he's got the track record from New England. So expect him, I think, to make $6 million a year, $5 million a year, and maybe there is sort of going to even be a delayed reveal of McDaniels' contract. The one thing that matters more though than average salary per year is length. Like, did he get a 10-year deal? Did he get a 5-year deal? And it is a little weird because it took us a while. It's taken us a while to find out these details of all the coaches, and I feel like in the past, you kind of immediately know a lot of the details of the salaries of the coaches. And the length is the most important because for coaches, it's different. It's fully guaranteed. So if he has a 5-year deal and say it's $5 million, well, then he's getting $25 million right off the bat, right? So we need to figure out, like, what is the plan? Because the longer the contract, the more flexibility the coach has, right? Obviously, we're in a win now mode, but it would be interesting because if you have like a 10-year deal like Gruden did, you're gonna approach, you know, every season differently. You're going to approach it like a 10-year plan, right? And maybe McDaniels has a 10-year plan. Maybe he doesn't. We don't know. I'm interested to see, and I'm interested to see how much he ends up getting paid and how much is guaranteed. Hope you enjoyed the video today, guys. Remember to like this video, subscribe, and ring the bell for notifications to get more Raiders content. My name is WiFiWillie of the Raiders Rundown. Peace out, and I hope you have a good one.